Greetings, I am Shawn Redman, aka the cheesily named Darth Shawn. And last time we talked about the first comic post Return of the Jedi, Shattered Empire, and how much it told the story that we wanted to start to see, how we wanted to go into The Force Awakens. Well, last Friday we got the first novel to begin the journey to The Force Awakens. And it has gotten a lot of negative reviews. And they aren't wrong. Now, I'm not going to lie. I was really excited for Star Wars Aftermath. I pre-ordered it the first day I could. I awaited in the mail. We were going to get a novel. It was going to follow Jedi. We were going to start leading into The Force Awakens. And so I had probably unrealistic expectations for this book. That being said, I had unrealistic expectations for Shattered Empire, and so far through one issue, it has lived up. Now, it's harder to live up in a full-fledged novel, so I will give author Chuck Wendig that. It is harder to write a novel. I do not know how much went into, how much control he had, but I will say this, Aftermath is not good. Doesn't mean it doesn't have an interesting story, doesn't mean it doesn't have interesting things to go with it. Very much like the prequels, have a lot of interesting things and little tidbits and things that extend the universe that are very interesting. It's just not well written, it's not done well, and it's just not what we wanted. Now, that being said, even though I didn't love this book, and I will get into the reasons why I didn't love it, I like to practice, especially like I did with the prequels, I like to at least say what I liked first. I like to get that out of the way before I tear into this. I really like the character of Rey Sloane. I said that in A New Dawn, and she comes back in this. She's an Imperial who has, kind of been overlooked. She played by the rules, didn't really try to step on anyone's toes in the Empire, and it backfired as she was an admiral, she got a Star Destroyer, but she didn't have really any power. And now she's one of the few remaining major players left, and she's trying to bring the Empire back. There are puppets behind her pulling strings that we find out in the end. We don't really know who it is. It could be Snoke. It could be someone we haven't known yet. But there is a mysterious figure that's pulling her strings. But she's just a fantastic character. Really from beginning to end. Even if you start from New Dawn and come to this. She's just a character that has a lot of intrigue, a lot of growth. And you really can actually sympathize with her even though she's an Imperial. She's gotten her power. She's gotten in this position. And she wants to hold on to it, and she wants to keep it, but she wants to do it the way she feels is the right way within the Empire. So she's a great character. Another character I really liked was the character of Sinjir. Now, I think Sinjir is going to be a major character even going forward, and I think there's a very good chance we see him in The Force Awakens too. Different reasons in the way he is, but he is a former Imperial who abandoned the Empire after the Battle of Endor. He ran to the Outer Rim to just basically get away from it all, and unfortunately, as it always does, stuff finds him. But he's a very interesting character in that he is basically determined now to be a rebel. He's determined to take down the Empire in a lot of ways. But he wasn't just part of the Imperial forces. He was a loyalty officer. And he really did terrible things to his own men. There's a great a little subsection of a chapter where they're asking his loyalty, and he's basically explaining what he did and how he hurt people, and how that how it means that he never really was with the Empire because he was always hurting his own men to make them loyal to the Empire. And so he's a very interesting character. I don't always think the story brought him out as well as it could have, but I thought him alone was a very interesting character. I think the only other thing I really liked in this novel was, and surprisingly because a lot of people hated it, I really liked Mr. Bones. There's something about the battle droids. As cheesy and stupid as they were in the prequels, it makes a lot of sense to bring them back, and especially because they are remnants. They aren't going to just all disappear. There's going to be some. There's an episode of Clone Wars where a kid fixes up battle droids, paints them with armor, and kind of like they protect him and things like that. And we get that again. There's a kid in here, Tim, who's been fixing up this battle droid, Mr. Bones, teaches him through programming and different things, martial arts, dancing, and different things. So he's literally a force to be reckoned with, and he takes down a lot of people in this novel. But he's quirky, he's weird. I know people kind of have a problem with the Roger aspect of it. He still talks like a battle droid. He's still a little funky, but as a whole, I thought it worked. I liked it, and I like that nod back to the prequels saying, hey, they do exist. We do understand that there are good things we can pull from it, and we can make it. That's what the Clone Wars did so well, is they pulled from the prequels and they made themselves better despite being in what was bad movies in that universe. And so they were able to be on. And that's what I would like to see more of, is just being able to pull from the universe and expand it. Now to get to what I didn't like. And that's a very long list. To begin with, I don't know. I was not familiar really with any of other Chuck Wendig's writing. But compared to guys like James Luceno, who wrote Tarkin, Paul Kemp, who wrote Lords of the Sith, Christine Golding, who wrote Dark Disciple, and even John Jackson Miller, who wrote New Dawn, he just doesn't compare. It feels so much like fan fiction at times. It feels so much like I'm so excited. I'm writing Star Wars. I'm writing Star Wars. Look at me. I'm writing Star Wars. Instead of writing a story that happens to be Star Wars. And that's a huge difference. And the book does not flow. The characters, you jump from one to another so quickly. You don't really relate with any of the characters. They don't have any real depth to them that's brought out. And it's not well put together from a writing aspect. The other aspect of it, I don't necessarily blame on Chuck Wendig, but he was obviously tasked to write a lot of different things. And the story group obviously wanted him to touch on a lot of different subjects. And so in between every couple of chapters, there's things called interludes, where we go to a different planet and we get a page or two telling us, this is going on this planet. Oh, and this is going on this planet. And this is going on this planet. And they come off as just bland. And it's not always that it's something interesting. There's a lot of very, very important stuff in these interludes going forward. But they just are not interesting in the book. I mean, we get potentially the big reveals. There's an interlude where Darth Vader's lightsaber is being purchased by a group, maybe the beginning of the Knights of Ren for Force Awakens. There's an interlude where Han and Chewie, which, hey, I would love to read a book about what Han and Chewie are doing, but that's another story. But we get a couple pages where Han and Chewie decide they're going to go off on a different mission and go liberate the Wookiees. And it's so thrown in there, and then they're not in the book again. We get an interlude on Cloud City where they're fighting the Imperials. It's so disjointed. It's so all over the place, and it just does not fit in the book. I kind of feel like it's a bad episode of the Clone Wars at times. There were some sagas of the Clone Wars where they're trying to throw so much in like 2 or 3 episodes where it didn't just work. And that's what it felt like. They're just trying to throw stuff and tell us, hey, this is going on in the universe. This is going on in the universe. This is happening here. These people are happening. And it takes away from the story they're trying to tell, which at its core is not a bad story. It is interesting to see what is going on with the Empire afterwards. It would make sense that they would flee to the Outer Rim and a group of rebels have to band and fight them. That makes sense. That's an interesting story, but it is not written well. It is not told well, and that really, really hurts the book as a whole. The core of the book is a pilot who was a part of the second Death Star attack. Very interesting that there's a main character that's a pilot in this that was in the attack as well as in Shattered Empire. Interesting connection between the two. But the main pilot and her son as she's trying to get them off this planet, Akita. And I think as a whole, it's not a bad idea to go this angle. I think it's actually a good idea. But it's just not well done. It's written with episode 2-like dialogue at times. The back and forth between them is just so bad. And it just feels so forced. Every time that they want you to feel something or feel emotion for it, it feels so forced. But it's just a book that does not work as a whole. And that's too bad. Now we're going to get a whole trilogy. This is going to be a 3 books arc. I don't know if Wendig is writing all 3, but we're going to get 3 books. There's several other Journey to the Force Awakens books that are going to come out. So hopefully maybe as they build up upon it, that will improve. There's also another aspect to it. And I've seen several people write and say this as well. A New Dawn was not a great book in a lot of ways, especially when it came out. It had a lot of new characters that we did not know and going forward. But once you watch Rebels and then come back and you know the characters, it is a much better book. So there's a possibility that when we watch The Force Awakens and we see some of these things, or we read some of the other books going forward, or the comics or other things that come out show us more to these characters, and we come back and we're like, oh, that's why that character is doing that. There's a possibility this book will improve over time from a story aspect, but the writing just holds it back from ever being good. The one final negative thing on this book that hurt it was, as I said in the previous video, I was really excited to get to see Wedge featured in a novel. We heard that he was going to be one of the main characters. We heard that he was a part of it, and that might have been the most disappointing thing. He is in the book. He has a fairly major role, and he doesn't do a whole lot. And it's a very disappointing direction that they take a very cool character. I was not pleased. Really, any chapter when he showed up, I was not pleased the way they handled him. That was probably the thing that hurt me the most in this book, was taking Wedge Antilles and making him just kind of blah. So what did you think? Do you think I'm being too harsh on Aftermath? Did you like it? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, I am Shawn Redman, aka the cheesily named Darth Shawn, and may the Force be with you. Always.